Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, today we meet again at another segment of Biar Buku Bicara, Menjana Wacana Minda at USIM Online. In this segment, new publications by Penerbit USIM are introduced and discussed in the hope of generating and enriching intellectual discourse amongst us. Today's session is focusing on a new book entitled The Organ Shortage Crisis in Malaysia, written by Dr. Farah Salwani, binti muda Elias Ismail. Let me give a brief introduction about the writer, Dr. Farah. Dr. Farah Salwani is a senior lecturer at the Faculty of Sharia and Law, University Science Islam Malaysia, USIM. She obtained her bachelor degree in Law, LLB, and Masters of Comparative Law, MCL, from the International Islamic University, Malaysia. She was awarded her Doctor of Philosophy in Law from the University of Southampton, United Kingdom. Her area of expertise is medical law and ethics, including contract law. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy to have Dr. Farah with us today to tell us more on her book. Assalamualaikum Dr. Farah, and welcome to Biar Buku Bicara Menjana Wacana Minda at USIM Online. Firstly, we would like to congratulate you on the publication of your latest work this year, a 2014 publication entitled The Organ Shortage Crisis in Malaysia. So Dr. Farah, we have a few questions that we would like to ask from you regarding this special book. In your book, you open the topic by referring to organ donation as one of the miracles of modern medical science and the best life-saving therapy for patients with end-stage failure of essential organs. Could you explain it further in relation to the main thrust of the book?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you very much to my good friend Puan Nurhaili Masari for the generous introduction. And with this opportunity, I would also like to thank especially to Cik Adiba and also her team members from the unit penerbitan for giving me this opportunity to be with all of you in the segment of Biar Buku Bicara. So inshallah, I will try my best to explain a bit about my book. So I'm sure that all of you have seen the book before. Yeah? So going back to the question that you were asking me, why is it that organ donation is considered as a miracle in the modern medical world? Well, to answer that question, my answer would be because by having organ donation, we are able to save the life of human beings. Try to imagine, we have a lot of patients suffering from end-stage failure of organs. It could be the kidney, it could be the lung, it could be the heart. So all these patients are in a very critical situation and they need treatment. So by having organ donation, it is actually one of the treatments that we are able to offer to them in order to prolong their lives, in order to help them survive even longer. So that's why organ donation is very important. So when we talk about organ donation, you might be wondering, what is actually organ donation? So in an organ donation process, what we do is we derive human organs of which we use in order to replace organs in humans which are already not functioning or have been severely damaged. Okay? So by having these donations made by people, it allows these organs to be available in order for us to transplant them into patients who are in need of these organs, right? So of course, that by saying that, I'm sure that you would agree with me that organ donation is actually a miracle because it helps to save patients' lives. So I guess you might be wondering, here I am talking about organ donation, but at the same time, my book here is talking about organ shortage. So what is actually the relationship between organ donation and organ shortage? Well, when we talk about organ donation, it is people donating organs. And these organs donated will be used to help patients who are in a critical situation needing organs to survive. However, there is one big problem that we have, and this is what we call as organ shortage, where the organs that we need is not enough. We do not have the supply, we do not have organs to give to patients, whereas the demand is very high. So this is what leads to organ shortage. And by the way, when we mentioned about organ donation being a miracle, I just remembered a verse, I think it's in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 32, where Allah says, whoever saves the life of one person, it is equivalent to them saving the life of all the humankind. So of course, human organs is valuable and organ donation is a miracle. I think that would answer the first question, I guess.
Yes, very beautifully, yeah, with the support from Surah Al-Ma'idah just now. I think that proved as a very meaningful explanation for us, the public, because this comes from a research done by a person who is involved from the law faculty, yeah. Secondly, we would really like to know what would be the process like that is involved in the writing up of this book, and what are the challenges that you face in the completion of this book, Doctor?
To be honest, this book was actually an excerpt from my PhD thesis. I was doing my PhD at the University of Southampton, United Kingdom, and after doing my studies, I realized that I have to share my findings with everybody. When I was doing my PhD, the topic that I was writing on was a social legal study on organ shortage in Malaysia. So after doing some research for about 3 years, I finally discovered that I think that I have the answer why we face organ shortage in Malaysia. So that's why I'm thinking that I need to share my findings, and therefore the only way in sharing this is by making a book, so that I could offer it to the public, for the public to read and to know and also to understand about the problem. And then you were asking me about the challenges. What are the challenges that I was facing when doing this? Of course, everything does not come easily. And of course, when I was doing my studies, I was also having the ups and downs of life as well. Okay, that's normal, I think, for a student. But I think that above all, the most important thing was that it was really a very exciting experience. It was really interesting, really exciting. Why? Because I was writing about something that I really had passion with. My favorite subject is medical law. I love medical law, and that's why I was thinking of writing something that has relation to my studies, to my interest. So that's why when I was doing this writing, when I was doing this research, even though there were challenges, even though there were also hard times, but I considered it as something very interesting, something also very challenging as well. And while doing my studies, I had the opportunity to conduct a questionnaire, of which I disseminated to the public. And that was when I had the challenge of meeting all sorts of people in the public. For example, just to share with all of you perhaps, when I was giving out my questionnaire, because I wanted to know their views on organ donation, there were people asking me, look, I want to donate my organs, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start with. So that's one thing. And there were also people asking me, I am a Muslim. Am I allowed to donate my organs? Can I really do that? Is it that not sinful to do that? So all these were questions that were posed to me and that made me think there's a lot of issues lingering organ donation. There's still a lot of things that people do not know, and therefore if we have the opportunity to know it, we have to share it. So that's why I started, and I decided that I wanted to publish this book, to publish my PhD work, and with the help of Unit Penerbitan, USIM, Alhamdulillah, my dream became a reality.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. We hope that Dr. Farah's passion would inspire us to be also good at our own disciplines, inshallah. Dr. Farah, could you share with us the important and interesting content and topics from the book?
Okay. If you're asking me about the book, I think the best thing is I should show to you my book first. I'm very proud of it, so I have to show it to everybody, right? So this is the book. This is my first book actually, and if you have a look at the cover itself, the color is dark red. We'll start with the cover first. Okay, why is it dark red? Well, me and the publishing team decided to choose dark red because when we talk about organ donation, when we talk about organ transplantation, it definitely will involve a procedure involving blood, isn't it? You have to undergo surgery, isn't it? So dark red would be the color of blood, of which means that it will involve surgery. And of course, blood is also something that you can donate, isn't it? Okay. And if you look harder down at the bottom part of the book, you will then see that there are some graphic of certain organs. You can see the kidneys, you can see the heart, you can see the lung. Unfortunately, the pictures are not that clear. However, there is a reason why that's what we're doing. There's a reason for that. The reason is, what we want to show is that these organs are important, but they are very scarce. It is very hard for us to get it. That's why it is a bit hidden. Okay? And then if you look further, you will then see at the front part of the book, of the cover, you will see that there is a simple graph. A simple graph. And on the graph, you can see that there is a yellow line and also a blue line. So the yellow line actually is representing the registered donors, which means that every year you can see that there is always an increase in the number of people donating, in the number of people registering to become organ donors. Okay. However, as for the blue line, you can see that the rise is very slow. And the blue line here actually represents the actual donors, which means that even though we have a lot of people registering as organ donors, but not as much people become actual donors. So that is the main issue that I am trying to tackle in this book. We have a lot of potential donors registering, but at the same time, why is it that we do not have enough organs available? Why is it that these potential organ donors do not become actual donors at the end of the day, right? So that's all about the cover. Let's have a look inside. So if you have a look inside, you will then see that the book is divided into 6 chapters. Okay. As for the it is actually talking about the nature of organ donation. I have included some information about what is the nature of organ donation, what is the justification of having it, and also I've started to introduce the readers what is actually the organ shortage problem. How is it taking place? Why is it taking place? So that is the main issue of the book. Right? And then further on, if you have a look at the second chapter of the book, I have included discussions on the various legislative systems available in the world. In the world, we have so many systems applicable in handling organ donation. Okay? For example, if you refer to my chapter 2, for example, in the first part, I have explained that there is a system known as the opting-in system. So the opting-in system is when people voluntarily register as an organ donor. And then I've also dealt a bit on the opting-out system, which means there are also situations where people are presumed to become organ donors. Okay? And then there are also systems like conscription system, and also the mandated choice, and also the required system. So all these systems are different in their own way, the way they are applicable, and also the results of it. Okay, for instance, by having all these different legislative systems, at least all these different countries have their own way on how to regulate organ donation. Right? And then have a look at my third chapter. My third chapter is a chapter which focus solely on organ donation in Malaysia itself. What are the procedures, what are the challenges, what are the laws that regulate, and especially for law students, I have included an analysis on the Human Tissues Act 1974, which is actually the main or the sole act or statute which regulates organ donation in Malaysia, right? In chapter 4, I'm discussing an alternative where I'm trying to suggest that we should now resort to cadaver donations more than living donations. I forgot to mention to the audience here, we have actually two types of donors. So donors can come from a living donor, organs can come from a living donor, and organs can also come from a cadaver, which means when a person has already died, you can still donate your organs. So organs can come from living people, just like us, we can donate our organs, or it can also come from cadavers. Meaning to say, the moment we die, we can then donate our organs. Okay? So in chapter 4, what I'm highlighting is that even though both organs can come from either living or cadavers, but what I would like to recommend is we should focus on cadaver donations. We should focus on cadaver donations. You might be wondering, why? Because when a person has already died, you would no longer need the organs that you have, isn't it? So that's why the best thing is, why not you just leave it and donate it to somebody else for them to use it, because you won't be needing it anymore. Okay? And of course, the risk is even lesser compared to donating while you are still living. But this is just only a bit about the discussion. If you would like to know more, I'm sure that you should have a copy and read about it, and you will then find that it is very, very interesting to look at the discussions among jurists arguing on whether we should refer to cadaver or we should refer to living donations. Yeah? And then in my 5th chapter, I'm talking about a suggestion where people are saying that if we are in desperate need of organs, why don't we take organs from victims of accident cases, road accident cases. And I'm sure that you are well aware that Malaysia is a country where the rate of accident cases is very high. A lot of deaths are caused by accidents, isn't it? Recently, we had cases where buses were involved, okay? About 20, 30 people died during this incident. And therefore, these are actually good potential donors. Okay? So those are among the discussions in my 5th chapter, where I mentioned that it is actually time for us to think and try to act and decide that we should make use of these organs available, right? And in my last chapter, what I did was I tried to list down a bit about what are the possible solutions that we should take immediate action to act upon, so that at least we could try to reduce the number of organ shortage in Malaysia. Okay, so that's all a bit about the book that I'm prepared.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Farah, for giving us a peek into what is the contents of the book. Yeah, when Dr. Farah relates to us the Malaysian experience, I would like to know. I think the public would also like to know, in relation to other countries' experiences in organ donation. How do you position Malaysia as compared to other countries in terms of their practice and in terms of the challenges that they had to face?
Okay, thank you very much. Well, in Malaysia, in my opinion, I think that organ donation, organ transplantation is quite a settled issue. People know about it, people are aware about it, people understand it. And we have also been doing a lot of transplantation as well. But of course, I am not a medical doctor. I'm just looking at the issue from a social legal perspective. Yeah? All right, so when we talk about the practice in Malaysia, so as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different systems that regulate organ donation. So in Malaysia, we apply the system called opting in system, which means if you are interested to become an organ donor, what you should do is you should voluntarily register as an organ donor. We will not take organs from you unless you consent. We will not take your organs unless you yourself register to become an organ donor. So this is what we call as the opting in system, which is applicable in Malaysia. And another country applying opting in would be the United Kingdom. Okay, so even in the UK also they apply this opting in, meaning to say if you are interested to become an organ donor, you yourself must come forward, fill in the form, volunteer yourself to become an organ donor. So that's in Malaysia. We also have in other countries, for example, we have what we call as the opting out system, which is in contrast with the opting in. Under the opting out system, what is done is we presume that everybody in the country is willing to become an organ donor. Everybody is presumed to become an organ donor unless and until you opt out, you jump out from the system, you deregister yourself. So that is opting out. Okay, and in opting out system, the countries applying this would be Spain. In Spain, in Austria, and even our neighboring country, Singapore, they apply the opting out system, which means everybody is considered as an organ donor unless you jump out of the system, unless you say that, no, I don't want to be considered, and therefore, then only they will not harvest your organs. Okay, so that is the opting out system. There's another system called the conscription system. And the only country applying the conscription system is China. This is another system where the government or the country is allowed to harvest organs from its citizens and people without even asking for consent. So whether you like it or you don't like it, you are already a potential organ donor. And again, the only country applying this is China. So this is a bit controversial. But if you are interested with this issue, please read, because I have already detailed it about. There's very interesting stories about how China take organs from executed prisoners. They take organs from executed prisoners. And according to the research that I made, I'm sharing some secrets with you here. According to the research that I made, it says that in China, they have about 64 offenses which lead to the death sentence. And that's why they have a lot of people being executed and they have sufficient organs to harvest from. So all this is included in the book. Yeah? And we also have systems like the required system, the mandated system, which means, for example, in the US, they apply what they call as the required system, required request system, which means it is the responsibility of all the medical staff to ask people about what is your wish when you die. Would you like to become an organ donor? Would you refuse to become an organ donor? So that is the system known as the required request system, applicable in the US. So all these different countries have different systems. But the most important thing is in Malaysia, we apply the opting in system, which means it must be done voluntarily.
Thank you, Doctor. So now we'd like to move on from the discussion about organ donation to the crisis on organ shortage itself in Malaysia. Could you enlighten us on some of these issues that is relating to Malaysian scenario and some possible solutions to these problems?
Okay. Yes. When we talk about organ donation, it is a must for us to also deal with issues related to organ shortage. What is actually organ shortage? So organ shortage is a situation where there is a very high demand for people wanting and needing organs. People want organs, people need organs, people are in desperate need of organs to survive. But at the same time, even though the demand is very high, the supply is not enough. We do not have the supply. We cannot meet the demand. So this is what we call as organ shortage. And that's why also, if you refer to my title, I'm referring this situation as a crisis. It shows that we are now in a very emergency situation. We are in a very suppressing situation. We need action. We need help. We need to deal with this issue. We need to solve this problem, isn't it? Okay? So that is the problem, organ shortage in Malaysia, whereby demand is very high, but supply is very low. So I'll just share one answer. Why is organ shortage happening in Malaysia? So in Malaysia, for your information, according to statistics, every year about 2,500 patients are added to the waiting list. The waiting list means it is a long list where they list down patients needing organs. So every year, according to statistics, about 2,500 patients are added to the list, meaning to say more and more people are needing organs. But there's not many taking place. I'll prove to you. Until July 2012, we already have about more than 200,000 potential registered organ donors. But for the same length of time as well, we only have about 376 actual donations taking place. So where are the rest? Where are the rest? Why are they not becoming actual donors? Isn't it? So that's the main issue. That is, this problem is actually causing organ shortage. We have a lot of people coming forward to volunteer to become organ donors. But at the end of the day, not become actual donors. So that is the reason why we're facing organ shortage. And while doing my research, I discovered that in Malaysia, we are suffering from organ shortage not because we do not have potential donors. We have a lot, and we have a lot of people coming forward. But there must be reasons why. There must be certain reasons which is hindering people from becoming actual donors, for example. And the main reason would be, to me, I would say that there is something lacking in the procedures that we have. And this would refer to the law that we have. Because I'm looking at this particular issue from a legal and social perspective. And I discovered that after analyzing the Human Tissues Act 1974, I found out that in Malaysia, consent and also permission from the family members is very important before a person can become an actual donor. Under Section 2, Clause 2 of the Human Tissues Act, we do acknowledge family refusal, meaning to say, even if we have already registered as an organ donor and we are willing to donate our organs, but at the moment of our death, if our spouse or our next of kin refuses to give consent, therefore they will not proceed with the procedure. And that is among the reasons why in Malaysia we do not have sufficient organs. So the main point would be we are facing a problem where we have family refusal. Okay, so when we have family refusal, we do not get consent from the family members, therefore they will not proceed with the procedure. So that is among one of the reasons why organ shortage is still taking place in Malaysia. There are actually a few more reasons, and I have already discussed that in thorough in the book. However, for today, that's it. I will just share one of it so that at least there is some aura of suspense when you're reading the book in the future, inshallah.
Thank you, Doctor. So this session I think has proven that this is a very important book for us, to educate ourselves regarding the issue and the dilemma that is facing organ donation and the crisis that is in the Malaysian scenario right now. So, Doctor, as the author, to whom would you recommend as readers for this book?
Well, when I was writing this book, I was thinking that this book should go to the public at large. This book is actually not such a heavy topic, but it is actually a topic which is very close to everybody's heart. So my main aim, or I would especially dedicate this book to the whole public, because everybody should know what is the problem that we have, so that at least, even though you have not registered as an organ donor, at least you start thinking whether would you like to become an organ donor or not. Okay? And of course, besides the public, I think that this book is very suitable for students, especially for those taking law, or particularly medical law, and also for those practicing medicine, for the medical students and also medical practitioners. I think that it is very important for them to really understand what are the underlying issues that we have, what is the real situation taking place now, so that everybody can work together to help solve the problem.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Looking at our audience today, I think they are very interested in the topic, with the applause, with the celebration that they give to you just now. So I would really like to open the floor for question and answer session. if, let's say, members of the audience would like to have or address some comments or questions to our dear Dr. Farah here, you may share. Yeah, we have one question from a gentleman. Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, Madam. My name is Muhammad Afdal bin Azman, second year student, Faculty Syariah and Law, and one of the doctor students actually. Okay, so Madam, I have one question. Before that, I would like to congrats for finishing your finding, and I'm as your students. I'm proud to be here. Okay, Madam, I have a question. You know, you already explained that there are two types of donors, which is the living donor and also the donor who already died, and we have to get consent from family in order to get the organs from the dead body. So, okay, from what I hear from your explanation just now, it's more too conventional. I just want to ask you. Because this is under your research, just want to ask you, how about we as a Muslim, how about the donation of the organ according to Islamic perspective for the dead body? We get a consent from the family, right? According to the act that you refer. How about according to the Islamic perspective, according to Sharia? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, when we talk about organ donation, without doubt, Islam allows us to donate organs, without doubt. And even back in 1974, there was already a fatwa in Malaysia released by the National Fatwa Council, which mentions clearly that organ donation is allowed, permissible for Muslims. Yeah? So there is no doubt at all. But of course, if you look at the Quran, there is no certain clear verse mentioning organ donation. But by making qiyas, we would understand that yes, organ donation is something permissible. Okay? And when you're asking me about living donors and also cadaver donors, well, if a person wants to become an organ donor, either you want to become a living donor or you want to become a cadaver donor, in both situations in Malaysia, consent is a must. You must obtain consent before any harvesting of the organs can be done. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, in Malaysia we apply the opting-in system, which means you yourself must voluntarily volunteer your organs to be donated. Therefore, consent is very important. Okay, for cases of living donation, of course, it's easy because you can just ask for consent when the person is still alive, isn't it? And in Malaysia, if you want to resort to living donations, normally they will require that between the donor and the recipient, there must be some blood relation. Meaning to say, for example, I'm a mother, I can donate to my daughter or my son. Or perhaps it must be the parties have an emotional relationship. For example, a husband donating to the wife, or the wife donating to a husband. And in fact, last week, I have a friend who his wife donated a kidney to him. And that took place in Malaysia at the HKL last week. So, of course, if you're alive, it's easy because you can just obtain consent, isn't it? Okay. What about for dead people? What about their consent? We cannot wake them up from the grave to get consent, isn't it? If you do that, it'll be really scary, I guess. Okay. So that is why while you are still living, you need to mention what is your wish. If, for example, you become an organ donor, so you have to inform your family members that, look, I have registered as an organ donor and I want to give my organs to people who are in need, so that the moment death comes to you, your family members know and they are aware of your wish, and therefore they can proceed to allow your organs to be harvested. Okay? So again, in both living or cadaver donations, consent is a must. Is a must. Right? Thank you.
Hope that answers your question just now. Maybe we can have another question. Okay.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Ashura from Faculty Sharia and Law. Okay, if I heard before, you have said about alternative, right? So I would like to know if from your view, is there any, beside from what the government had done, what is the other alternative that may be done in order to promote the organ donor in Malaysia to actively participate in this matter? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. If you ask me about what do I think with what the Ministry of Health or the Government of Malaysia has done, well, to me, I think that they have done a great job. They have done a great job. And to prove that, you can see that from all the campaigns that they have done, we have a good increase of people registering as potential organ donors, isn't it? Okay. But what more can they do? Well, if you read the book later, you will see that under chapter 6, I have listed a lot of solutions of which I think is suitable to be conducted in Malaysia. But perhaps I'll just share one of it. And the rest I'll just keep for you to read it later, to enjoy the book later. So I guess one that I could share is that we could utilize road accident cases, especially people who are involved in accidents, and we diagnose them with having brain dead patients, for example, brain dead patients. So these are actually a good source of people that we can harvest their organs from. So if only we could make some procedures or regulations of which we can harvest organs from these people, I think that would also be great. Okay, and when I was doing my research, one thing that I discovered was that in the UK, for example, whenever you want to renew your driving license or whenever you want to renew your insurance license in driving, you are always asked the question, would you like to become an organ donor? Which part of the organs would you like to donate, for example? So at least I think that if we were to apply the same thing, it would be also good. Because even though perhaps at that particular moment you won't be thinking or you won't decide whether you want to donate or not, but at least you start thinking, would I want to become an organ donor in the future, for instance? So at least you think about the issue. And it does create a certain aura of awareness, isn't it? Right? So I think I'll just share one and I'll reserve the rest for you to read and discover from the book.
That's a very good strategy, Doctor.